The envelope arrived on a Tuesday, cream-colored and expensive, addressed in handwriting Maya hadn't seen in 12 years. Inside, a single key attached to a leather fob stamped with gold lettering, Lighthouse Inn, Room 7, and a note in Harper's distinctive scrawl, I bought our inn. Come find me if you're brave enough. Maya stood in her Seattle apartment, rain hammering the windows, holding a key to a coastal Maine property she'd only visited once, during the best and worst week of her life. Harper Castellano didn't do grand gestures. She did calculated moves. This wasn't an invitation. It was a challenge. And Maya had never been able to resist Harper's challenges. The Lighthouse Inn perched on the Maine coast like a secret someone had forgotten to keep. Maya's rental car crunched over the gravel drive at dusk, November wind carrying salt and the promise of winter. She was 41 now, not the 29-year-old who'd fled this town with a broken heart and a one-way ticket to the West Coast. The inn looked different, better. The cedar shingles had been restored, the wraparound porch rebuilt, gardens planted where there'd been only wild beach grass. Through the windows she could see warm light, bookshelves, a stone fireplace crackling. This wasn't the run-down bed and breakfast they'd explored 12 years ago during that stolen week when Maya had been considering a journalism fellowship in Boston, and Harper had been visiting family. They'd both been lying. Maya had been running from a stale engagement to a man who loved her resume more than her soul. Harper had been hiding from expectations. The Castellano family empire, the arranged courtship with a senator's son, the life mapped out since birth. They'd found each other in a hotel bar in Portland. Harper, all sharp wit and sharper cheekbones, dark eyes that saw through every defense Maya tried to erect. They'd talked until 3 a.m., then driven up the coast in Harper's vintage Porsche, ending up at this dilapidated inn where the elderly owner had rented them separate rooms but smiled knowingly when they'd only used one. 7 days. That's all they'd had before reality crashed back in. Maya cut the engine. Through the inn's main window, she saw her, Harper, older but unmistakable, pouring wine in the front parlor, laughing at something a guest had said. Her black hair was shorter now, elegant silver threading through it. She wore jeans and a cashmere sweater, sleeves pushed up, revealing the delicate tattoo on her left wrist. A lighthouse. New since Maya had known her. The front door opened before Maya could knock. "You're late," Harper said, leaning against the doorframe. "I expected you yesterday." "I wasn't sure I'd come at all." "Liar. You've been planning this drive since the envelope arrived." Harper's smile was devastating, familiar, dangerous. "You always did overthink everything. And you always did manipulate situations to get what you wanted." "True." Harper stepped back, gesturing inside. "Are you going to stand on my porch judging me, or are you coming in? It's November in Maine. Choose wisely." The inn's interior smelled like wood smoke and lavender. Jazz played softly, Chet Baker, Harper's favorite. The parlor held 4 guests, couples mostly, sipping wine and playing board games. Completely normal, except this was Harper's Inn. Harper, who'd been groomed to run Castellano Hotels, a luxury empire spanning 3 continents. "You quit," Maya said quietly, following Harper to the private wing. "I evolved." Harper poured 2 glasses of Malbec from a bottle that probably cost more than Maya's plane ticket. "The family was displeased. My mother didn't speak to me for 2 years. My father tried to have me declared mentally incompetent. Standard Castellano response to disobedience." "Harper, don't." Harper's voice was sharp. "Don't pity me. I bought this place with my trust fund before they could freeze my assets. I've been running it for 3 years. I have 12 regular guests, a 5-star rating on every travel site, and a life that's actually mine. I don't need your sympathy, Maya. I need you to tell me why you disappeared." The question hung between them like smoke. You know why, Maya finally said. I know what you told yourself, that I'd never leave my family, that we were impossible, that you were saving us both heartbreak. Harper set down her glass with deliberate precision. What I don't know is why you didn't give me the choice. You had a fiancé, Harper, an actual engagement party scheduled for the month after we met. I had a arrangement, not a choice. Harper's eyes flashed. You assumed I'd choose duty. You didn't stay long enough to find out what I'd actually choose. Maya's room, room 7 naturally, overlooked the ocean. Harper had prepared it meticulously. Fresh flowers, handmade soap, wine chilling in a vintage ice bucket. The bed was the same iron frame from 12 years ago, but with new linens that felt like silk against Maya's skin when she finally collapsed at midnight, emotionally exhausted. She woke to knocking. 5 a.m., barely dawn. Harper stood in the hallway with 2 travel mugs. Beach walk, non-negotiable. They walked in silence at first, the Atlantic hurling itself against rocks that had witnessed a million such walks. Harper wore a waxed canvas jacket and boots, looking like she'd been born to this coastal life. Maya, in her Seattle rain gear, felt out of place, urban, wrong. I called off my engagement 3 days after you left, Harper said abruptly. Told Alessandro the truth, that I'd met someone, that I couldn't pretend anymore. He was actually relieved. Turns out he'd been in love with his tennis instructor for years. We both got free that day. Maya stopped walking. You never told you? You changed your number, blocked my emails, disappeared so thoroughly I hired a private investigator to make sure you were alive. Harper's laugh was bitter. He found you in Seattle working at that magazine, dating a woman named Jessica? Jenna. And we weren't serious. No, because you don't do serious, do you, Maya? You do safe, you do surface level, you do anything that won't risk feeling what you felt during our 7 days. The accusation stung because it was true. Maya had spent 12 years in relationships that were comfortable, pleasant, forgettable. She'd built a career as a travel journalist, ironically, writing about places she visited but never truly inhabited. She'd perfected the art of being present while remaining completely unavailable. I was engaged, Maya said quietly. To Tom, when we met. I was supposed to marry him in 6 months. I know, you told me. Night 3, after we'd had too much wine, and you finally opened up about your perfectly planned life with your perfectly suitable man. Harper turned to face her. You told me you felt like you were drowning in beige. And then I met you, and everything was technicolor and terrifying. So you ran back to beige. I called it off, the engagement, 2 weeks after I left Maine. Maya picked up a smooth stone, turned it over in her palm. Tom was furious. My parents were devastated. My mother cried for days about the deposits we'd lose, the embarrassment, what people would think. Did you tell them about me? I told them I'd realized I didn't love him the way I should. That wasn't the whole truth, but it was true enough. Maya threw the stone into the surf. I moved to Seattle, started over, convinced myself that what we had was just a moment, an aberration, that I'd get over it. Did you? Maya looked at Harper, really looked. The silver in her hair, the fine lines around her eyes, the lighthouse tattoo, the confidence she wore like armor. 12 years, and Harper had become more herself. Maya had spent those same years becoming less. No, Maya admitted. I compared everyone to you. They all came up short. Harper stepped closer, close enough that Maya could smell her perfume, something with bergamot and cedar, nothing like the heavy florals she'd worn during their week together. I bought this inn because it was ours, Harper said softly. The only place where we got to be real. I've spent 3 years turning it into something beautiful, sustainable, mine. And the whole time I've been waiting to see if you'd be brave enough to come back. That's insane. Probably, Harper smiled. But I'm a Castellano. We don't do anything halfway, including obsession. They spent the day together, falling into the rhythm they'd discovered 12 years earlier. Harper showed Maya the inn's transformation, the guest rooms she'd designed, the organic garden she'd planted, the small library she'd curated with first editions and local authors. Over lunch in the sun-drenched kitchen, Harper told her about the early years, the fights with her family, the loneliness of starting over in a small town where everyone knew the Castellano name, the gradual building of a community. The locals thought I was crazy, Harper said, chopping vegetables for a stew. This rich girl from New York buying a rundown inn, living alone, working 14-hour days. But Mrs. Patterson down at the general store started inviting me to her book club. Tom, different Tom, runs the hardware store, taught me how to fix the plumbing. Sarah, she owns the bakery, she's become my best friend. You have a life here, Maya observed. I have a real life here. Finally. Harper added wine to the pot, the kitchen filling with rich aromas. What about you? Is Seattle home? Maya considered the question honestly. Seattle is where I live. I'm not sure I've had a home since I was a kid. I've been in motion, constantly traveling for work, moving apartments every couple years, keeping everything temporary. Because temporary can't hurt you. Because temporary is safe. They ate dinner with the inn's guests, two couples celebrating anniversaries, a solo traveler writing a novel, an elderly woman visiting her grandchildren nearby. Harper was gracious, attentive, making everyone feel seen. Maya watched her work the room and realized this wasn't performance. This was who Harper had become when freed from expectations. After the guests retired, they sat by the fire with whiskey. I'm 41, Maya said suddenly. I've spent 12 years running. I'm tired, Harper. Then stop running. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Harper set down her glass. You think I don't know about fear? I walked away from everything, my family, their money, the only life I'd ever known. I spent the first year here terrified I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. But you know what was more terrifying? The idea of turning 60, 70, 80, and realizing I'd lived someone else's life because I was too scared to claim my own. Maya stared into the fire. I don't know if I can do this. Be here. Be with you. Risk everything again. I'm not asking you to risk everything. Harper moved closer, her voice gentle but firm. I'm asking you to stay 1 week, 7 days, like before. No promises, no pressure. Just see what this could be. And if it's still impossible, then at least we'll know. At least we won't spend the rest of our lives wondering. Maya looked at her, this woman who'd haunted 12 years of half-lived relationships and safe choices. Harper's dark eyes held steady, patient, sure. 1 week, Maya heard herself say. Harper smiled, slow and devastating. 1 week. One. The week unfolded like a conversation they'd paused mid-sentence 12 years ago. They fell back into each other's rhythms effortlessly. Morning beach walks, afternoons helping Harper with inn maintenance, evenings cooking together while debating everything from politics to poetry. Maya found herself laughing more than she had in years, arguments with Harper sharpening her thinking in ways she'd forgotten were possible. On day 3, Harper kissed her. They were repainting the trim on room 4, covered in white paint, arguing about whether Bob Dylan or Leonard Cohen was the superior poet-songwriter. Maya said something cutting about tangled up in blue, and Harper kissed her mid-sentence, tasting like coffee and inevitability. I've wanted to do that since you arrived, Harper murmured against her lips. Took you long enough. They made love that night in room 7, the ocean crashing outside, moonlight painting them silver. It was different from 12 years ago, slower, more certain, tinged with the knowledge of what they'd lost and what they might reclaim. Harper's body had changed, as had Maya's, but the chemistry between them was unchanged, undeniable. Afterward, lying tangled in expensive sheets, Harper traced the scar on Maya's shoulder from a motorcycle accident in Vietnam 3 years prior. "Tell me about your life," she said softly. "Really tell me. All the years I missed." So Maya did. She talked about the stories she'd written, refugee camps in Jordan, street food markets in Bangkok, disappearing glaciers in Patagonia. She'd documented the world's beauty and pain, always as an observer, never a participant. She'd had lovers, some women, one brief return to dating men that had confirmed what she'd known since Harper, but nothing that lasted, nothing that mattered. "I was good at my job because I never stayed," Maya admitted. "I could write about places with clarity because I never let myself belong to them." And now, Maya looked around room 7, at the careful restoration, the fresh flowers, the way Harper had preserved the iron bed frame from their first night together. "Now I'm wondering what it would feel like to belong somewhere, to someone." On day 5, Harper's mother called. Maya watched Harper's face transform from open to shuttered as Carmela Castellano's clipped tones carried through the speaker. The conversation was brief, brutal. The family was gathering for Christmas in Aspen. Harper's presence was expected. There would be suitable men attending. Perhaps she'd reconsidered her little rebellion. Harper ended the call, poured wine with shaking hands. "I'm not going," she said flatly. "I haven't been to a family gathering in 3 years. I'm not starting now." Maya understood then the price of Harper's freedom. The Castellanos hadn't just been displeased, they'd been relentless. Phone calls, lawyers, attempts to sabotage the inn's permits and licenses. Harper had weathered it all alone. "Come with me to Seattle for Christmas," Maya said impulsively. "I'll introduce you to my chaos. My mother will love you. She's been not so subtly hinting I should settle down for years. My dad will quiz you about wine. It'll be loud and overwhelming and nothing like a Castellano Christmas." Harper's eyes glistened. "You want me to meet your parents?" "I want you in my life, really in it, which means my family, my friends, my world." Maya took Harper's hand. "I spent 12 years compartmentalizing, keeping everything separate. I don't want to do that anymore." "What about your job? Seattle?" "I'm freelance now. Have been for 5 years. I can write from anywhere." Maya felt something unlock in her chest, terrifying and liberating. "I could write from here, if you wanted. I could split time between Seattle and Maine. Or," she took a breath, "I could stay, really stay." Harper set down her wine carefully. "Maya, think about what you're saying." "I have been, for 5 days straight." Maya stood, pulled Harper up with her. "I ran once. I'm not doing it again. I'm 41 years old, and I finally figured out that home isn't a place. It's you. It's been you since that first night in Portland when you looked at me like I was interesting instead of accomplished." Harper kissed her then, deep and claiming. "Stay," she whispered. "Stay and help me run this place. Stay and argue with me about poetry. Stay and build something real." "Yes," Maya said, simply, finally yes. Maya didn't return to Seattle that Christmas. She called her editor, negotiated a column about sustainable tourism in coastal Maine. She sublet her apartment, shipped her belongings cross-country. By spring, she'd moved into the inn's private quarters permanently, her books mingling with Harper's on the built-in shelves. They expanded the inn, adding a writer's retreat program. Maya taught workshops on travel writing. Harper hosted wine tastings featuring small, sustainable vineyards. The Castellano family eventually stopped calling, though Harper's younger sister visited one summer and left crying with relief that someone had escaped. On their 1 year anniversary of Maya's return, Harper proposed at sunrise on their beach. Maya said yes before Harper finished the question. They married in the inn's garden that October, surrounded by guests who'd become friends, locals who'd become family. Some love stories take 12 years to find their way home. This one finally had. Your story awaits. Have you been running from the life or the love you're meant to live? Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is stop moving long enough to recognize where we actually belong. Share this story with someone who needs permission to come home to themselves. Subscribe for more WLW romance stories about women who choose courage over comfort. Because it's never too late to choose the life that's been waiting for you.